I'm Action.
I'm Set.
And I'm Roll.
And it's our first year anniversary. Wow, 365 days since the moment I uploaded our first video and created our YouTube channel.
It's hard to believe it's been that long. I mean, we've done so much in the last year.
Yeah, it's been very eventful this past year.
And it's been a great year. We've seen a lot of steam engines, we've plane spotted, and we've seen a lot of other cool stuff. So for our year anniversary, I guess we're just going to talk about some of our favorite memories, how we started as a group. And the other thing is, too, quite a few people have kind of mentioned to me because they didn't see the February update. And that's okay if you didn't see the February update or the March update because those videos didn't get a lot of views. But there are a lot of people who still think Go is in the group, and Go has not been a part of us since January.
Basically, clear things up, as it were.
And to more or less celebrate the fact that we have now been a YouTube channel for 1 whole year. I guess then we'll get started about how this all started.
Well, first of all, I've known Seth since middle school, pretty much.
It's been, give or take, about 15 years.
More or less.
And then I've known both Action and Set for about 6 years, 5 to 6 years.
And I knew Go since high school. I don't know about the rest of you guys when you met Go.
I met him pretty much about 5 years ago.
Same, it was about 5 years.
I've always been interested in steam engines since I was a kid. To me, they were the coolest things. I grew up with videos such as Fast Moving Trains, which featured Strasburg 90 and Western Maryland 734. Look, There Goes a Train, which featured the Santa Fe 3751. And Shining Time Station was my favorite show as a kid.
Pretty much since I was a little kid, I was always interested in planes. My grandparents would take me out to air shows every now and again.
And well, I guess you could say our channel kind of started about 3 years ago. The year was 2014. It had been announced that the Erie County Fair Train would be no more. As a kid, when we used to drive up to Hamburg, I remember one of the things I remember seeing as always being interested in trains was the Fair Train prepare to leave. It wasn't until 2014 that I actually saw the Fair Train leave for the first time. Then it was announced that year that was going to be the last year of the Fair Train. So me and Go wanted to make sure we were there for the last year. We covered a span of about 3 days, even though the footage that remained was only there from about 2 days, which is what you see. And we pretty much caught it from 2 different locations and preparing to leave and the train actually leaving. Fast forward to 2015. The first steam locomotive I'd ever seen under steam was in 1996 at the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum, and that was the ex-U.S. Army 610, a consolidation class locomotive. Then a year later, another consolidation locomotive I'd seen under steam was the Arcade Attica 18. From 97 to 2015, which was about a span of 18 years, I had not seen another steam locomotive under steam. I happened to be up in Hamburg when I just found out that I had missed the steam locomotive and the Nickel Plate Road Berkshire 765. I was quite upset because I found out about it literally last minute. I had that Saturday already booked, and I also had that Sunday already booked. There would have been no chance of me buying tickets. So I went up to an overpass in Cheektowaga, went out of my way, and I caught that 50 seconds of footage of the Nickel Plate Road 765 flying by. Before then, I had always looked up videos of my favorite locomotive, the Union Pacific 844 and the Southern Pacific 4449. I had looked up other steam locomotives such as the Western Maryland 734 and the Ohio Central 1293. And really at that point, that's when I decided, okay, I haven't seen a steam locomotive up till this. That was one of the coolest things I had seen. I want to get out there and see more steam locomotives. But still, our story, as you know, because we just found it about 365 days ago. Our story would wait a little longer until we would pick up now in May of 2016.
That's right, May of 2016. We were out to dinner at a local restaurant, and we were talking about a few places that we would want to visit in the near future.
And it was me, Action, and Go. And like Action always describes it too when we talk about it, it all stemmed off of this one conversation. I was talking about memories of my trip to the National Air Force Museum, which I also saw the USS Cod years back. And I just remember it was like, well, why don't we go to the National Air Force Museum? Why don't we?
And I pretty much said exactly, why not?
What about the USS Cod? And while the trip that we did go on in 2016 to Pennsylvania and Ohio was actually, believe it or not, a little different than what we originally planned, that's how it all started. Then Roll kind of came into the picture.
Yeah, I'd actually received a phone call about a day later after this plan asking if I was interested in going through the trip for that year. So seeing a lot of cool different things, and of course I was like, yeah, absolutely, I'd love to see it. We were going out to see a bunch of different museums, and of course I wanted to go. Strasbourg Railroad, the Great Lakes Museum, the Air Force Museum, and then the USS Cod.
And originally we had a few different ideas for the trip, but that was the most reasonable one because I wanted to see a steam locomotive again, and I wanted to ride behind one. And I'm glad the Strasbourg 90 was the first one I was able to ride behind in almost 20 years. But it did not stop with our Pennsylvania-Ohio trip. And believe it or not, we did stop at a few other places on that trip that Action and myself and Go agreed the videos just would not fit on our channel. Am I not wrong, Action?
You're not wrong.
I had heard around this time that the Nickel Plate Road 765 was going to be having an open house. And I wanted to go out and see the 765 under steam because the 765 still to this day kind of means so much to me because had it not been for the 765, I wouldn't have seriously gotten back into railfanning. I kind of got back into trains in 2008 when I had a broken leg and I was watching YouTube videos, but 765 kind of reminded me of why steam engines were cool in person. I found out about the 765 having an open house. Go originally wanted to go with me. Actually couldn't go that weekend because he was busy. And then I found out about 2 hours north of where we were going to be going, the Père Marquette 1225 was pulling Excursions out of Howell, Michigan for the Howell Melon Festival. And I said, Go, why don't we go and see that? Which we did go, and we did get a little bit of footage, but last year, unfortunately, Go didn't want to make a day out of it, so we left after we rode, and we caught that one shot that Action for one whole year was jealous of. And then after that, just kind of a few things kind of fell into place. Action, I and Go, for our last trip together, went to Steam in the Valley in 2016, which that was an awesome time.
Yeah, the Steam in the Valley was one of the first long excursions I've ever gone on, like more than an hour.
Because the first one we went on was like an hour long. But then, a few things led into another. Me and Action chased the Viscose 6 in Hamburg that year, even though I think this year's videos are a little better because we picked more spots other than Scott Street Yard.
And I actually got to ride it this time and brought my camera along with it.
But I guess in October of last year, I just got thinking, we had so much footage. We had cool footage from the Pennsylvania Railroad Museum, the Strasbourg Railroad, the National Great Lakes Museum, USS Cod, just everything that we had been at that past summer, including myself getting throttle time with Nickel Plate Road 767, even though it was a 765. I guess I just sat down with Go and Action and I said, what if we were to just start a channel based on everything we just did?
And again, our answers were, why not?
So we recorded our overdub a few nights earlier, actually probably about a week earlier, if I'm not mistaken, and there we were on October 22nd, 2016, with our first video, the introduction video.
And the rest, as they say, is history.
We're now looking back from October 22nd, 2016 to October 22nd, 2017. I think we've accomplished a lot in a year. And I'm sure we all have favorite moments, starting with Action.
I think one of my favorite moments was probably the first time seeing the Père Marquette 1225, because I hadn't gone with Set and Go on the to Fort Wayne and Michigan that year, and seeing the footage that Go actually got of the Père Marquette, it looked really impressive, and I was so excited to see that thing up close. When I finally got my chance to see it in person, it did not disappoint. One of my favorite things that I ever shot was probably a Delta 757 taking off from Buffalo Airport, because since Buffalo Airport is kind of a smaller international airport, you don't see many of that, but it was a charter flight for one of the sports teams there. And it was just impressive to see a large airliner take off from I think another one of my favorite shots that we got was one of the pacing shots of the Père Marquette 1225 from this past summer at Howell Melon Fest. That shot took so much preparation and so much effort. Set was driving the car, I was operating the camera, and it just looked absolutely gorgeous.
So I had a lot of favorite memories over this past year, even before channel, and I think some of my favorite moments would have to have been our chase at the Howell Melon Fest this past year. When I went last year, like I said, Go more or less wanted to get home, and it was understandable. In the course of a week, we had went on 2 trips. This year, I remember we were trying to make plans back in January because I was hoping the Pure Marquette 1225 would go to the Howell Mountain Fest, which luckily for us, that was the first excursion this year. And we just chased from 6 a.m. in the morning till 7 p.m. at night. And we got a variety of different shots. Action got it from the overpass, the pacing shot he was talking about. And yeah, if you haven't seen the video, I'd recommend you see it. Another one of my favorite moments, just to name a few, would have to be when I got throttle time with the 765. Again, as it had been announced in our top 5 favorite videos for 2016, it was announced about a week beforehand there was going to be throttle time with the 765, which actually drastically changed up being Go's trip that week, as we planned on stopping at a few other locations. Number one, to actually see a steam locomotive fired up is impressive. To actually sit behind the controls of the 765 was another thing. And Zach was the engineer that pretty much told me how to control the train and everything else, and it was just awesome. Another 2 things I just want to real quickly bring up, not to make this video go on longer. 2 of my other favorite moments definitely would have had to have been when I chased the Norfolk and Western 611 this past year, because that was just one incredible locomotive. I have a friend who chased it many, many years ago and chased it and rode it behind it every year until it was retired in 94, from probably about 84 to 94. And he wasn't wrong when he said this thing was impressive in person. It was my first streamlined locomotive. And my other favorite moment from our first year in Action Set Go was going with Action to Chattanooga, Tennessee, to return to the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum. As previously stated in this video and a few other videos, the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum was where I first saw my first steam locomotive under steam. I remember seeing the 4501 when it was painted green sitting in the yard, but I rode behind 610 back when I first went. It was great to return. We had 2 days of great rail fanning. We got cab rides on both the Southern 630 and the Southern 4501, and we just had a great time meeting other rail fans. I just hope it's not another 21 years before I return to Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum.
And
Roll?
I would say I had 2 favorite moments. The first one was during our first trip when we went down to the National Air Force Museum. You know, we always talk about a lot of the trains and stuff like that, but I was just like really amazed at the large collection of, you know, planes, the Air Force One, all the history behind it. It was honestly a really amazing experience. It's like most people, you know, have little to no knowledge of planes, and, you know, some of the planes that we had exhibited were boarded by actual, like, presidents and by real people and stuff, so it was very cool for that. And then my second favorite was in Museum of Science and Industry. There was one particular thing which I wish I could have done that both Action and Set went on, was the U-boat. We just didn't get a ticket because I didn't feel like I would like it, but after kind of like going through it and going through the museum and seeing all the interesting artifacts and the history behind it, I would love to have gone and seen the U-boat. But like I said, everything was amazing there. It wasn't just the boats, it wasn't just the history, it was even a lot of the planets and the interesting facts behind it. But like I said, I've liked everything here, but I would say those are my 2 favorites.
Now, coming on up, like I said, we've had a great year chasing 611, 1225, 765. As what Roll just said, going to the Museum of Science and Industry, the National Air Force Museum, and what Action said back here, the Père Marquette, seeing it last year for the first time on the 75th anniversary excursion. Go's departure. Well, as you know, we were formed as Action Set Go, Railfanning, and other cool stuff. And that was always our aim. While I would say Railfanning does take up a lot of our stuff, we do Plane Spot, and we do go to that other cool stuff. Go and myself had been friends for close to 10 years. I actually even knew Go way before that. It happened one night in January. I had awoken the next morning, and I was checking through the notifications on my phone when I noticed I had an email from Go. And he more or less kind of resigned his role in Action Set Go. He actually said to give Roll his position and make him the new Go, but that he was moving on with his life, and that he was sorry that, unfortunately, this is the way things were going. Go, I guess you could say, was, well, like Action, was not originally a rail fan, but after seeing to Berkshires for a weekend straight and seeing the 765 Well, at the time it was a 767 again. Go was becoming more of a rail fan. He was an excellent cameraman. He helped me up in Gowanda last year for the New York and Lake Erie Christmas excursions.
Exactly, and that one shot he got of the Pierre Marquette last year in Howell was, I thought was absolutely gorgeous.
And he also got some great shots. He had the Viscose Company 6 on the first day of Christmas excursions. Well, we never really get into personal things. Go had a lot going on in the background. Go pretty much deactivated himself from all social media accounts, and believe it or not, since January we have not heard that much from him. I ran into him recently. He was doing okay. I was glad to see that. I definitely did not want to push on him and say, hey, we miss you at Action Set Go. Like I said, he just had a lot of things going on. And when he left, it was the biggest shocker for us.
Yeah, I mean, I was honestly not expecting it.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it either, but...
Roll and the three of us, I mean, we're planning last year, our trip. Around this time last year, we were talking about going to the Midwest, going to a few different places in the Midwest. I mean, originally, Action, it was you, me, and Go who were planning on going down to the Western Maryland Railroad for the 1309, but as I'm sure most of the people are aware, Western Maryland Railroad did not have the 1309 restored this year. Hopefully they'll have it restored next year. I'm glad to see Go is doing well. At this point, I don't think he'll ever return to Action Set Go. I don't even think he'll return to social media. I'm just glad to know, though, that he's doing good. We can all assure you, the three of us can all assure you that he's doing good. Maybe one day he'll want to rejoin. The position's always open if he wants to rejoin. Go will always forever be Go. It'll never be Roll, it'll never be me, and it'll never be Action. It will be forever Go. So, Roll, when we first formed, we'd never thought of asking Roll. Roll's a busy guy, are you not?
Yeah, I'm always swamped, like 24/7.
And originally, we just never thought of asking Roll. Now, in the last meetings, me and Action, calling on you, Action, me and Action and myself and Go talked about, Roll is planning on coming on some of these trips with us. Why didn't we ever honestly ask him to join in the first place?
Yeah, why didn't we ask him to join?
So, while Roll's never been a rail fan like myself or a plane spotter like Action,
I've always found this stuff cool.
So into the future, we're glad for our subscribers, our followers on Instagram, our followers on Twitter, and for the few people that like us on Facebook, we thank you. And into the future, all I can tell you is we've got a lot of cool stuff, even right now, that me and Action and Roll are talking about preliminary for next year. And I encourage you to tag along for the ride because we still plan on railfanning a lot of steam engines.
And going plane spotting.
And doing other cool stuff.
But anyhow, we all thank you for the incredible first year. Here is our new profile picture, which is of the Reading and Northern 425 from last weekend. And we hope you stick around.
I'm Action.
I'm Set.
And I'm Roll.